Guys, this is Steve Smith here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm at the club now. I'm gonna do a walk around to show you guys the layout. And I figure out how to switch the camera view here. Okay. I'm gonna start to walk around. Hopefully it's not too shaky. This is the HO scale layout here.
The event where Mary found out the Holy Spirit was going to help her conceive.
You got a nice looking lift bridge right here. Harbor. Nice trestle there. Rope bridge for looks like people on the hill there. Got a freight train coming into the tunnel. It's like a K4. You got have a little L system here too. Elevated railway with New York cars, New York Redbirds. So it also has some kind of stopping mechanism on it because it stopped at the station. That's the station there. And then a picture of the harbor that's there. You slowly walk around so you don't miss anything. Got a coal mine.
Title last name of Ross, rooting hero of 18th century Cornwall, in books by Winston Graham and 2 BBC series.
Got a 2-track arch bridge here.
In historical fiction,
Looks like a real stone.
investigate deaths at a monastery in this medieval murder mystery.
How you doing? Good, good. Just broadcasting to our members of the club online.
USA. While you make your wagers, we'll take a quick break.
Nice.
No matter who you are,
Nice access hatch. I always like access hatches. Got to get to the layout.
Yeah.
Get back around this way. Here's Tom. Everybody say hello to Tom.
Hey, Tom.
That's everybody. I'm having a hell of a good time.
It's good. It's great. We got a CN freight coming in.
That's not fair.
It's like a second on the train.
Treating them like that. Good resource.
Yeah.
She wouldn't even.
Oh, it is?
Hey, Lee, can you mute yourself? Because we're hearing a TV in the background. I think it's calling for you.
A little sawmill right there. Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
Yeah,
That's how we
drawing.
set up.
Yeah.
Passing. on the way. PRT. Yes, not, I don't know if they're on, are they on the same line? We also have a camera set up on the freight train. You can see if that's the screen there. That was on the CN freight we just saw previously. Looks like that trolley going point to point. Must have a timer on the return.
Dealing with the USA in Final Jeopardy today. That doesn't narrow it down much. Let's see the clue.
Norfolk and Western Freight.
Their names to a facility built on the side of the racetrack, owned by Coca-Cola Lisa Candler. Good luck.
No. Somewhere in California?
Looks like German village. A lot of Kubrick type there. Faller and Kubrick. Yep. And there's the subway. With a level boarding platform.
Response were memory and journals. Yeah, I love when we cats also. Those are two of my favorites. I don't know if it's not correct. What will that cost you? You dropped out. We come now to Danielle Mauer, who was in second place with 11,400. What was her response?
I'm trying to figure out how the subway's controlled.
And Jackson. Could be it. Yes, the namesakes of the Atlanta airport. Possibly for a Georgia native, maybe that's not so hard. But remember, these questions are written months in advance of the time we're going to the game before we even know who the contestants are. Let's see what your wager was.
Part of the layout. Got a little town here.
Second place, we come to Matea Root.
The
23-game champion.
typical main street.
Going into final. Did she know it was her? Absolutely not.
Wait, I saw Thomas go by.
Playing basketball back there?
Yeah. Got a lot going on in this one scene here.
Yeah.
And $1.
Oh my God, she won!
Couple of theaters there.
What?
That's what people do to walk out on the fire state.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of little details. This is a cool looking subway station here.
Yeah.
Part of a little platform.
I didn't say how much she won. In case people will not go to bed. Yeah.
Oh, this is the other end of the line for the trolley.
Alright.
Yeah, they must have that on some kind of automatic reversing thing. Good.
You wanna watch?
Yeah.
It's over.
No.
Let's go, please. Starting in the fall, second graders in New Jersey will be expected to understand, quote, the range of ways people express their gender. In one school district, first graders will be taught that they can have boy parts,
Oh, that's
feel like a girl.
somehow the
That's how
Elementary school in our nation's
station
as young as the
has a set of limit strips. Yeah.
lesson on anti-racism.
Uh-oh.
to identify racist
So
members
it's,
of their own family. In the schools,
you're controlling the subway with the cuts in the rail.
kids are taught that, quote,
Oh, really?
white people walk around with an invisible force field
You want to explain to me
because they hold all the power in their lives.
Mute yourself, dude.
the elevator,
Yeah.
the elevator and the trolley too. You have two trolleys.
I have a child
All right, we're gonna
each age, maybe
get to the bottom of
or
this.
a child or a grandchild.
Oh, thank you.
This all comes from.
All right, good. How you doing?
And how are the classrooms of our youngest, our most precious gift on earth?
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out.
No, it wasn't just the COVID Zoom classrooms. It wasn't
Yes.
just Common Core and Obama's priorities, and it certainly wasn't just a result of the 1960s. That's
This controls all our HO
you see
subways.
behind the smokescreen of
Okay.
So we have it.
for the new
Dedicated.
industrial economy.
It runs complete separate from everything.
Progressive.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 14 volts.
Control social change on the mind. You see, before there was Obama's Common Core, there was Columbia's Teachers House. Before there was Antifa, there was Antonio Gramsci,
DC.
the Frankfurt School.
And then
Before there was the 1619 Project, there was
there's 8 sections.
people's.
I can
Before there was.
dead any sections so I can put it on manual. So I have a manual control.
Right. Okay.
Right now I got 3 lights, which is bad. They automatically stop. So I'm gonna restart that.
And invention.
So I got to get in there and calibrate some of these sensors. They're off.
We all took
They're
it.
giving a false indication.
History, economics,
So that's
philosophy,
no problem.
politics,
Normally, it's
civics,
just 2 lights should be on.
even
Yeah, we have a
yeah,
microprocessor.
the classes we all took.
I think it's
It's an invention.
regular Arduino Uno.
Oh, good.
You see,
Arduino.
without us even knowing.
It is a Nano. Anyway, I had to use a Nano because the sensors,
All routine
um,
progressive education.
it wasn't fast enough
Today, it is a
to do an average of 10, that each sensor 10 times. So I had this one doing just the sensor. So this gives an indication to this when any of the sections have a train on it.
Okay, so is that a photo sensor or is it?
No,
like
these
an
are
on and off
current
type sensor?
sensors right here. These are the current sensors. When the train gets into that section, it closes the circuit, makes it high and low
Okay.
when it senses a current. And you can adjust the microprocessor to know which voltage that is. In other words, it puts out a voltage. And then I go in and I can some of the sections have a greater voltage than the others. So each one is individually calibrated.
Ah,
So if something gets out of whack, I can put it on manually, make one train dead and move the other one around to get it repositioned.
is the dwell time also controlled by the Arduino?
So
Pardon me,
Dwell time
pardon
at the
me.
station?
Is there any way
Oh,
to
yeah.
mute the background noise?
Can someone mute Lee?
Have a 15-second
We
stop.
can't hear a
Please
thing.
If
mute
the
the
next station is
background noise.
occupied, it stays there and waits. It won't leave that station unless the next
better.
station is not occupied. So that helps keep them separated.
Better.
Okay, it's like blocks.
Yeah, and then right now, see, I've got 3 lights.
Mhm.
It's supposed to shut everything down. And that's not good. So I got to get in there and recalibrate something. Because this was on, it was not supposed to be on. So that sensor needs to be adjusted because it's indicating something's there and it's not.
Okay, cool.
So I need to work some more on that.
You designed this all yourself, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I got another job for you when you've done this.
Oh, yeah.
You can cut my layout. I need one put in.
Everything we do here has got
Ooh,
the backup,
okay.
including that's all the pinouts and the color codes, the wires and so forth.
Oh, so you got records. Good. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have the micro. This is a nano, and then this is the regular microprocessor. It's a mega on here. It's got more inputs and outputs.
So is the trolley system built on the same way?
No,
the
the HO trolleys, I got away with just using 2 4-volt relays. That's
Okay.
down here. That's this is this is the power supply for the trolleys.
Okay.
Just a regular regulator, and they only draw half an amp. And then if it's too heavy, these lights start to light up. Show me a short circuit oil. And so like now they're drawing a little bit extra current when these start to glow.
Mhm.
Now in here is the system. Here's the two 4-pole relays.
Okay, that's all.
At each end, and
Yeah.
it's photosensors. So basically,
Yeah.
and each end, so it reverses the current when it gets to the end and sends it back. And then with the relays, whenever the current reverses, then I know which position the turnout should be thrown into, so it hits into the right section of that bypass.
I need one of these too.
Yeah.
I have a subway system and a charge system.
Everything is on the website, so you can.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out. Your name is again?
Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie, for
Charlie,
showing us that.
we also have a system of smart turnouts.
Oh,
I'll show you that over
yeah,
here.
that was like smart turnout. Everything's smart now, huh?
My guys, this is the yard. And when they go to come out of the yard, if they don't have all the turnouts doing just right, then you have a derailment. So now when they want to bring out a train, it won't turn green out there unless they have a clear run to the main line.
Okay.
So it's a whole system of logic in here.
So like one of the old switch machines where you can't throw a switch under a train.
Right.
Right.
Like interlocks. Or something.
Interlocking, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot safer. Also, right here we have a crossing.
Oh, I see.
So if a train's coming in and somebody didn't do it right, so that section of track goes dead whenever somebody.
So it's protected.
So whenever that turnout is thrown and you have a train coming in, this section of track gets dead. So that little train would stop automatically, and it also would indicate a red light.
Okay.
So that's an interlock right there, so we don't have any collisions.
You want to Zoom yet, Steve?
Yes.
Do I have to sign in or-
I think everybody's on here. I don't know how many participants are, but I'm on now.
I got your meat hall right down the hall.
Oh,
I'll
thanks.
set up for you.
Here, here's Charlie. He made it. Say hello to everyone, Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
Oh, there's Charlie Grant. Oh my God.
Did you catch the RDC elevated train down there? That's
Oh.
automatic control.
Yeah, we're gonna go there next. Check that out. All right, we got the roundhouse here.
Oh, cool.
Oh, you ran the ground. You gotta test you.
I do that 30 years ago. Every shot. Put it right in the pit. Keeping the track here, the table was.
Yeah.
You had to go through a pre-test.
Gotta call that far away. Here we go.
That's part of that. Who's never going to pass the people because they did drugs all the time. His girlfriend worked in the safety department. And the joke going around was, congratulations, you passed the pre-test.
Can I have a bow? Sure. E. Buy another bow?
You put the yardstick for the path, perfectly in the path.
U. And O. I want to stop. Los Angeles Rays. Los Angeles Rams are Super Bowl.
Them is that. Yeah. Them is that arrived. Yeah. Never quit these.
All right, I'm gonna head over to the O gauge layout.
These two bakers building their business entirely online. Donate all of their proceeds to the fight for racial equity. And this is a woman giving so much a second life. And a man bringing the livestock to you. And that's why it's these
To New York Central West students.
It's okay.
Get all the way up here, I got a picture of the guy's hand. You ever notice they always run perfect when they look at the black?
Yeah, well, the gremlins show up though. Hey, Bruce. How's it going? Good.
I don't know what the that's
Station here. Full southern train coming in. The western side. Buffer control trolley.
About
Oh. Operating drawbridge.
wow.
Bascule type.
Oh, it's 3 reel.
You can see that you actually have a drive-in theater over there, complete with a movie plan.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Yes.
Look at this pretty cool drive-in.
Outstanding guest.
Really nice. Does this control the drive-in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Takes about.
Oh, look, got a Chevy Bel Air coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take the order. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more money. Yeah.
Oh, look, there's a coming out there.
Harry Delrose for Lieutenant Governor. Harry is a pro-life conservative who fought almost liberal shutdowns and independence in our system.
Hi, welcome to Mel. What'll it be? Give me a burger, fries, and a shake. Coming right up.
Uh-oh.
Ah,
Romans has struck again.
whoops.
Wow, that's cheap. Right. Finally here. There's some template running up here.
Good advice.
Yeah.
The template up there.
Wow. Wow.
Well, an RDC set there. Check out this monorail station. That's pretty neat. You find something on a Disney. Like some kind of a resort over there.
I wanted to have it on.
filling in.
I had a good run.
Yeah.
Back in the lead, I think. There's a chance of winning.
So sorry, all you have is the cruise and the cash for 18,758. Randy sometimes third place. 9,200. Yeah. Take a look at this vocabulary pick one for the bonus round. Phrase, things, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
It's like the car wash.
One touch of a button can get you help.
Can't take that pill though.
Yeah.
Or a little bit after. You can take it until 30.
Yeah. I'm up a lot.
Right?
I'm up a lot.
I know. But you're supposed to take it with food. You have to take.
Mine's a little bit of roadside America.
Yeah.
Sitting here today. Life alert is safe.
Life alert, lifesaver, me out of assisted living.
Life alert saves a life every 11 minutes. Sure, call 1-800-608-9338. 608-9338.
I started speaking to colon cancer because of my shit. I wish you could have seen our daughter Emily. Best day of her life. But colon cancer took over us, like it's taken so many others. That's why I created my mission to talk about getting screened and ask people to share their reasons. I screened for my family. Being with them means everything to me.
I speak for
Gas station.
It's time to speak. Today, there were screening options than ever before, including Holland.
Like a flying nail type live action. Yeah, that's the HO.
ask your provider and Oligarch is right for you.
If you're 45.
If yes, Dan, my dad's birthday.
Yeah.
China's successful growth is very much
Probably on the calendar.
Yeah.
David McCormick, tracing by
What's on 900?
people barely appreciated President Biden. Appreciate Biden. China. Just like the attack presidential. That's beat them.
There's a car dealership on there with rotating displays.
Wow. That's a lot of cash money. Right?
What is minimum your pension?
She said when she did.
No.
Some of the static space here.
No, push the button. Push the
Oh.
button.
Oh.
Also the firehouse. You push the button and everything happens.
World speed record for for that. Pretty cool. Chew mail pouch. Right here. Uh-oh.
They put it in, it's not talking about it now.
Jesus.
Oh, she had it.
Maybe she didn't win that round.
But she won that round.
Okay.
Maybe she hit a bankrupt later on.
Never seen this one before. That's interesting. Waiting for something like a fire. Hold on.
Water.
Yeah.
The reason you only get it.
We'll go back to basket.
Thus far, the second quarter and no points. Would you describe how the defense played so far as flat relative to the 76ers?
Bill, you're here.
Yeah, the energy, and of course, the 76ers are all here. It's good as well, of course. It certainly factors into it. 76ers also, though, they don't come out great tonight. They're probably going to get just try to put some pressure on you a little bit. Harris. It's it back to Harden. Harden dancing into the paint, whips it up, can't get it to drop. Over the rebound. Here comes Oladipo at a big game two.
Yeah. Oh, these guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faces up.
You guys are welcome to join us for the meeting if you want. Yeah. You guys are welcome to join the meeting if you want to come to the meeting with us. Okay. All right.
As the hawk there in the middle. That's a good shot. That's a face-up jumper from Penn. So one of the things that's interesting,
We're going to the presentation meeting right now.
We're supposed to talk about having hero and Oladipo on the floor together now for extended stretches in the playoffs after it virtually didn't happen at all in the regular season, but they prepared for it for months with shoot-arounds, with film sessions, and Oladipo buried the three so that these three guys would be comfortable even though they didn't have a lot of game reps or a lot of reps on the hardwood.
The runway started for them back in January, and it wasn't until months later that Vic ended up playing. And he looks very comfortable for them, and they look comfortable playing with him.
Green with an answer. Danny Green, who was frigid entering this game. It's 2 for 14 in games 1 and 2.
He's been here. This guy's a winner.
You don't need to pay us for
Yeah.
He's had off shooting nights, off shooting series in the playoffs before.
It's what these titles with 3 different teams. He wins. Nice effort by Adebayo. Hero. And hit Butler to 10. What a possession. The persistence from Miami.
Admittedly, since I said they came out flat this game, they looked much better,
Wait,
especially offensively for the
take
last
your mic.
One of those QB mics.
Somebody's got a TV going. Please mute yourself. Yeah.
Trying to figure things out here. Hold on.
There you are. Sure.
Smatters. Okay, hey, it's okay.
What is it last year?
I forget where we stayed the last time, but they had a good rate for Friday night, but Saturday night, they doubled the rate.
What Wi-Fi should I use? GSV wireless. Yeah, that's-
Things go on in Pittsburgh over the weekend. That's the reason they doubled the rates.
But that's 40 miles out.
Yeah, well.
No, the reason they do it because they can.
The usual reason.
So it's been all since I got on here, so I come back to here at the beginning. I don't know what's going on.
Think she's still up?
Yeah.
Well, we scheduled to start at 8 o'clock, or what's the format?
You have a pink house?
I wanted to paint my house pink, but I really should know. Pink underwear. It's just I don't wear any, I guess. Oh, that's too much information. Yeah, I'll never ask that again. Something that just as soon not know.
Just say, see, we got a pink house, it's got a pink shirt, pink phone, pink trolley cars.
Yes. That's the theme. Remember the pink toothpaste? Remember the pink toothpaste?
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm sitting here beating myself up trying to remember your name.
Rich Holland.
Like that again.
Bob Dietrich.
Oh, you can see me?
I know.
Yeah. I figured the distance and the weather.
Well,
Well, I was
Yeah,
thinking of who I
having a
would
little
see
bit
here.
of technical difficulties here.
Oh,
So
okay.
just bear with us for a little bit.
Sure, we will.
Oh, yeah, I was.
I will.
What's Bob doing?
hanging in there. It's got some issues.
So I've heard.
Quite a ride for him.
Yeah, they were gonna,
Really?
they were
Trying to
gonna
get in?
drive
Yeah,
up and maybe stop and have dinner. Safari was gonna come too, but they said not tonight. Just a little over an hour.
I don't see Bob.
He might be in bed.
You know, see, I think he tried to log on earlier because I got a message from him.
Oh, okay.
John Paul from Australia.
Oh yeah, we have a gang. There's Bob.
Yeah, Bob's on, okay.
Okay.
John Holt, how's Saturday going in Australia?
Actually, Saturday morning in Australia.
Hello? You hear me or not?
Yes.
Or I'm not getting sound out here.
You're not muted, are you?
I'm not muted,
No.
but I'm not sure my audio is on.
We're hearing you loud and clear, Charles.
Yeah. We hear you,
Certain
Charlie.
are speaking and the network is recognizing
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah, see, I'm not getting,
Your computer is recognizing you.
this is,
How
should
much?
be coming through the HDMI, right?
Yeah.
Can you try using that phone to
Not sure
communicate
this is
with
turned
the
on.
meeting? And
Yeah, they can hear you. There you go.
I mean, can that phone hear what people are saying?
Oh, okay. If anyone else has a. Turn it off. Yeah.
I can turn it up, whatever.
No,
The
it's a
volume
cell
is
phone.
adjustable.
Okay, yeah.
Because otherwise we get back feed.
They can hear you making noise.
Somebody talk.
Hello?
We can hear you, Charlie.
1, 2, 3.
Harold, that's you.
Right.
And we don't have any feedback anymore. This is really good.
Now, well, see, we have a phone here and this, so we can only have one on.
Correct. Good plan.
Right.
You need another laptop?
Oh, no, I'm good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the May East Penn Traction meeting. We are at the Garden Spot Train Club, Village Garden Spot Train Club. Thanks, guys, for having us. Hopefully, everybody on the Zoom meeting enjoyed the walk around that we had there. We can start our East Penn business. Charlie.
Okay, in the cash account, we have $31.51. In the checking, we have $3,086.21. In the money market, we have $18,680.26. And in the PayPal, we have $80.80 for total cash and bank accounts of $21,878.78.
Thank you. All the calendars are all sold,
Yes.
right? We're working toward our next calendar for 2023.
With some of the troops.
Yes. Update on the 23 meet. We should be getting the paperwork for the meet in 23, either at the end of this month, since it'll be less than a year till. So we're waiting on that. Business for next month, we have the West Penn meet out in Pittsburgh, Washington, PA. For all those who are going out there, make your reservations at the hotels if you're going to stay over. We have a contingent of folks who are going out there for that meet, myself included, and Bob's bringing out some modules. Well, Springs bringing out modules.
Nick Gallagher's.
Dave bringing.
The O-scale.
We've got O-scale modules coming.
Oh, great. Doug, you're bringing stuff too, aren't you?
Well, Mike's bringing it for me, but I'm driving out.
Okay.
And Dave Gallagher's driving out.
Yeah, so hopefully we got good weather out there. That
And Dave is going to bring Sheffield Junction.
Right. Well, it's going to all go in Mike's in the big trailer.
Yeah.
So if anything happens to that trailer, we're out of business. The whole crew.
Whose trailer is it going out in?
Mike, I forget Mike's last name.
Oh, Mike Racino. Okay.
Yeah, the big trailer that Dave had at the meet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Bob, South Hills Junction going out there to stay.
Yeah.
Yep. Ain't coming back.
Not coming back.
All right. So we can move on for other business. I want to hold up the presentation for later.
By the way, I got one other thing. Anybody got a loop? HO loop?
Yeah. Not anymore.
Can you keep one? Oh well.
You need 2-track HO loop,
Well, I
right?
got one. I have one loop, but I only have one.
Doesn't Dave have? Dave has a bunch of modules, doesn't he, somewhere? But I don't know what shape.
Dave Gallagher?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think the way he's talking to him.
I have a long skinny section that has a loop that's double track. I don't know whether it's to the East Penn standards or not.
No.
But maybe it could be modified.
I'm not in the mood.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the Brody loop?
Well, I think Dave had that at some point, but I don't know
Yeah.
what kind of condition any of that stuff's in.
Yeah.
Because he had my loop too, or one of them.
Is Dave Rafferty still a member?
Because I don't know who ended up with all the stuff Tom had.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob,
Yo.
this is Wissinger speaking. Have you been in touch with, what's his name's widow? He had several modules and one of them was a loop.
Howard's?
Yeah, Howard Andrews.
No. No, I tried to get in touch with a widow one time when or a son-in-law or something like that once when I was president, and he just got shot down. So I'm reluctant to go do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I know just the guy that can do that for you,
though. Final Jeopardy.
There's a couple of them. Yeah, maybe Ed has an HO loop, huh?
Well, yeah, but he's stuck in San Francisco right now.
Oh.
He's got COVID.
Okay. Anybody have any prototype news?
I went to the open house for the King of Prussia extension on Tuesday evening.
Oh.
Nothing new, but they're very focused on transit-oriented development around the stations. So they hope to have final engineering completed by the end of this year and appeal for full funding early next year. We'll see.
I heard some grumblings about the Roosevelt Boulevard subway.
Get out.
After 30 years, it's back in the news.
There's so much disinformation out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because SEPTA stopped, after they got to Sears, they stopped building the subway.
Well, they never got to see
No, they
that
never
was
got to
built
see
in the
it.
20s.
That's the spot.
Misinformation.
Yeah.
People think there's a subway that goes from Broad Street to Sears.
There was a station at Sears.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, they
People
just
think there's a
built
subway
the
there.
part underneath where Sears built the
Wow.
parking garage.
All they have to
And
do
they
is
built the
12 miles
tunnel,
on-
yeah.
on either side.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, that station is for the Northeast Expressway subway,
Yeah.
not the Roosevelt Boulevard
Yeah,
subway.
but that station, but that's all gone because they demolished the
Yeah.
parking garage, so the whole thing is gone there.
No, actually, it's under the street.
That's all.
That's
Yeah,
it?
it's under the street. It's not actually, wasn't under the parking lot. So it's still there, but I think it's closed for access. So I don't know if you remember the tunnel that went under.
Well, that was a,
Boulevard?
but that was always there. That was a
Yeah.
pedestrian, so you wouldn't get killed,
Right.
get walking across the street.
There's
But
a-
I think there was more people were attacked,
There's
being in the
actually-
things, so they closed it
What I
down.
seen, there was actually a corridor that actually went to that station
Yeah,
from there.
yeah.
So when the parking lot was demolished, they did not demolish the station, it was actually the street. So it's still there, possibly.
Possibly. I don't
But
know if that was ever built. I
I
think all
think-
they built was enough so they could build a parking garage and they wouldn't have to.
But I think the plan for the whole, that subway route
Yeah.
was to only go to Ron up that right of way.
Yeah, right,
that
or up the
Pico line
railroad
goes.
right of way, yeah.
So it's inadequate
Yeah.
for pretty much what's now.
Yeah.
You know, you want to go
Yeah.
to Franklin Mills, Silverton Mills or something. like
Yeah.
that.
In
You don't wanna go to Ron.
1964, the optimistic projections were that Rowan Street could make a profit and enough of a profit to extend it to County Line Road. And it would just about break even if they ran that far.
It was approved and it was voted by 2-1 on a bond issue in 1964.
Right.
For funding of it.
Yeah.
And
Now, the amount of funding would cover nothing now. It was $144
Yeah.
million.
Oh, that's probably a mile.
well, it got
Or
used
two.
up going to Patterson Avenue.
Yeah, so it's back. But it's
There are photographs on the city of Philadelphia's site, both of the construction of the station and then its condition a year or so later. phillyhistory.org.
Yeah.
Right.
Just search for, say, Adams and Whitaker Avenues,
Yeah.
and you'll find them.
Any other prototype news?
The Eglinton Avenue one in Toronto looks like it may open late this summer.
Toronto, I think I saw something. I don't know if it's true or not. They're talking about switching all the pantographs.
That is the plan.
Yeah. Now, the Eglinton Avenue, will that be that'll be what, standard gauge, not Toronto gauge?
Yeah, it's standard gauge, yeah. The same cars as the Toronto ones have right now, but they're in standard gauge. Apparently, they're about to train the instructional staff who will then teach the operating staff. Kind of interesting because it's owned by Metrolinx, which is covers up Go Transit, but TTC are going to be the operating crew.
Okay, does anybody have any other prototype news before we go to model news?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's a union jurisdiction. I don't know. Supposedly, though, if there is any, I guess, disruptions at all, I guess Go could then, or Metrolinx could have their own staff operating. I don't know. But it's well on the way. I mean, way over budget, of course, and way behind. But, you know, like what else is new?
About model news, how are we doing with the Bowser trolleys? Word?
Yes, they're coming in the future. They're my conversation with George, they're hopeful by Christmas that they'll have some. The other new, Volkmar's not here. He was going to try to get in, but he has to work tomorrow and the 6-hour time difference with Paris.
Yeah, see, I think Volkmar tried to get in earlier, but I don't think anybody was in yet. Yeah.
But his Atlantic City Insure cars are in production. We're
Got
doing.
to see him.
Huh?
I got to see him because I did.
Oh, you dropped in to see Volkmar?
My wife and I went to his house and saw his whole operation. It was a lot of fun, and we talked logistics for O-scale.
Oh, really?
He's working on it. He's got sides printed and ends. So
it might happen for you guys.
It is going to happen one way or the other. Yeah.
You're going to spend your kids' inheritance on that, huh?
If I have to, I mean, you know. So yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah, but the HO ones are in production. There's a group order we've done for them. And Volkmar's come up with a very reasonable price on it. It's 68 euros, including delivery and insurance. He's going to send, lots of extra parts for anyone, who breaks anything fragile. And so it's a good deal. He's going to start producing them now. He can probably make one a day. He says it takes him about 12 hours to print one.
Yeah.
His printer. I'm going to submit the order this weekend. We have 10 orders for that, and Bob decided to be the odd guy out and order the Pittsburgh 6000 car.
Yeah, well, poor Bob.
I need one of them,
Yeah. But it's compatible with the Bowser drive. You need poles and pole hooks. And George is, as we speak, working on the decals. They should be going to the printers within the next week.
Any other model news?
I'm working on more O-gauge modules, doing an assembly line style that is working on 3 at once and then 2 more to follow. They're ordinary straight modules, very narrow for getting around obstacles or for using as the second level above a trolley layout. They are, and of course, the Penn automation standards. Well, I do have a question. Does anyone have a through loop that they would either rent or sell to me? Because we're short of that stuff at the trolley meets.
A through loop?
Yeah, I'm looking for a through O-gauge loop. Not an end of the layout loop, but one that would go in the middle of the layout.
Oh.
Well, I have one, but you can't rent it or buy it.
All right. I'm looking for it. And as some of the members will tell you, in the past, I have borrowed other people's modules and returned them fully automated.
How about an HO loop?
Talk to Jeff Frank.
Just add water and it's a no scale loop.
I wonder. Has
Microwave and
anyone
shrink it.
seen Barbara Brody's loop that she got, I think, from Mr. Brewer many years ago? She lent it to.
It's a nudist colony now.
I know.
Yeah. No, I had that module for a while. And then either Tom or Dave ended up with it, but I have no idea where it is now.
Yeah, I had it. I had borrowed it too and made some wiring improvements to it, but then I returned it. It was in Bill Thomas's house for a while, but when he sold the house, it wasn't found there.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was 3 modules. There was a loop, a 90-degree curve that was compatible with the loop scenically, and also a 4-foot straight module. I think someone saw the straight module a few years ago, but the loop and the 90-degree have vanished.
We have a program, Jim.
Okay. Any other model news? Jim, one question for you. Are you guys going to have your summer event?
I'm willing to do it. I'm still worried about the virus.
Okay. So just let us know and we'll put it in the newsletter.
I mean, if people want to visit, the O-Gauge trolley layout is working. I run it every night to keep it clean. I mean, if you want to bring something over to run, I could stand at the other end of the cellar and yell out directions. So that,
I think it was a yes/no question.
All right, thanks. One more thing before we go into the presentation. I was thinking about summer outing this summer, probably around June, August, late June, early August, either to Rock Hill, the Baltimore Trolley Museum, or the Capitol Trolley Museum. Everybody has an interest.
may I add to that?
Yep.
What about the Brantford Trolley Museum?
Yeah, it's a little further, but it's definitely a doable place.
Yeah.
You got to go through New York to get there. That's the problem. Yeah.
The different thing about Brantford is that we would probably have to charge about $35 a person, but that means that you get to run a trolley car.
Like that.
Also, what about having a meeting at the Stamford, Connecticut Model Railroad Club? We are invited there, and they have a large O-Gauge trolley layout. And yes, you can, visiting cars can run on it. They post a picture of a meeting we had many years ago when I brought.
Jim, we have a meeting program.
You can set one.
I brought some of my trolleys probably 40 years ago up there. And so a picture posted of my car.
Jim, we have a meeting. We have a program.
Oh,
all right, let's get started with the presentation. Thanks all for joining. Thanks again to the Garden Spot.
Okay, Carol, I think you should be able to share your screen.
You nailed this last night, Terrell.
I'm doing it. Give me a second. There we go.
All right.
Yeah, okay, good.
There you go. Are you getting the audio too?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Out here in the hinterlands, we're going to go back in the Wayback Machine a little bit. You remember I'm Mr. Peabody. And let's see. So a couple simple rules. Don't flush when we're in the station. And if the door does not open, don't not enter. You know. So the North Shoreline Road of Service in winter. This was originally done as a program for up in Sturtevant, Wisconsin. They have this thing called North Shore Day. Of course, it's been on hiatus since COVID, but this was originally done for theirs in, I believe, 2015. But there's been some stuff added to it and everything. So. And, you know, Midwest weather, we had snow 2 days ago here. It didn't stick, but we did have snow. So, and no matter what the weather conditions, the North Shore always had the rule your watch is your timetable. Until January 20th, 1963, about midnight, every hour you could catch a train in Chicago for Milwaukee or in Milwaukee for Chicago. And on the half hours up to Waukegan or Mundelein. Show you a little of my props. This is the first North Shore photo I took. I was 6 years old, standing in the Des Plaines River. I got yelled at by my mother for having soaked up to my waist, but, you know, with an old Brownie camera, and that was the first one I did. And this is like 1960 maybe. And you ever see Cramble's Peterson archives and pictures in the magazines? There's Peterson, that's me. The two of us went to grammar school together. And we have 1 year apart in our age, same day and everything. We've been buddies all those years. This picture was taken by George Crandall's. But these are some of the early ones I took, and it was on a winter fan trip, CRA trip in 1961. For some reason, they like to stop the fan trips at Zion because that meant they had more people getting off or on than they had for a month when there was a fan trip stopping there. And you had your typical type lineup where you had standard Skokie coaches and the 415 in there, so they had a dining car.
How come the left edge of the
Yeah, I don't know what that artifact is there. I don't know what it is.
I don't know if I can go back. Let's see.
Just be sure you're full screen, Terrell.
Yeah, I'm full screen right now.
See, I think it may be a problem with my computer. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get it to go back without losing the whole thing. And sorry about that.
Yeah, that's good, man.
These were one of the ads the North Shore put out for their winter service. And these have been reprinted recently, too. And Santa visited the North Shore on pretty regular occasions. And this is actually Eric Gronsky's Christmas card this year, or last year. But their rule was everything must move. It truly was amazing. So, we'll go on with the passenger service first. Of course, this is on a Silverliner, this Herald. These became very rare at the end as they're in a lot of basements to this day, but here we are at North Chicago Junction. This train is going northbound. Combines are always on the north end, always, or facing north. They never face south unless something really upsetting happened because the baggage loading in both Milwaukee and Chicago matched the door for the Congress stub in Chicago. Originally, this view here, you'd see the line going off this way to Waukegan, but by this point in the 60s, it was gone. Currently, in this location, it's a 4-lane expressway. Totally obliterated the right of way here. This is one of Bill Schomburg's pictures taken up. This is in Racine on the southbound side. Here's a train coming in from the shops. This is the old Shoreline main line. That's Great Lakes Naval Center in the background here. And the photographer's standing on the Chicago Northwestern Bridge. And it was 2-tracked till just beyond, there was a freight spur into the Navy station here. And then it went to single track to Highwood. No passengers were allowed on this after 1955. In fact, even their deadheading crews were not allowed on it. But a lot of people snuck on it. This is, of course, Union Pacific nowadays. The viaduct was just removed not that many years ago, as they built that expressway. Here we are at Zion again. This is more typical of Zion. You had this big station that was built to get a right-of-way through here with this religious leader who in true religious leader fashion predicted the end of the world, but ordered coal for his furnaces for after the end of the world. So the Chicago Tribune had a field day with that. But Zion is still the home for a lot of interesting sects, SECTS, that type of thing. But the right-of-way was 4 tracks wide at this point, just through the station. Here's typical, this is very typical winter North Shore scene. And this is one of the cars that had the coal heaters in them. So they'd have to warm them up, before they take them out on the road. And this is a Shoreline vintage car, of course, with the double sash windows. This is a typical train, rush hour train up on the L. This is at Fullerton Avenue. This is totally different looking now. All new stations, wide platforms. And even the structure is now concrete at this point. A concrete trough-like. But this train here is a local going up to Waukegan. And so you had the older cars on it. They wouldn't, on the North Shore parlance, they called the Skokie cars buckets. They only had bucket seating. They hadn't had the bucket seating since the 40s, but they still called them the buckets. These cars were pretty much as built other than the paint scheme. Here's your buckets. This is standard steel, but anyways, on the loop. The loop has changed quite a bit too in the last 10 years, where there used to be 3 stations on the east side of the loop and 3 stations on the west side of the loop. Now there's 2 stations on each side of the loop, all the way around, 2 on each side. So where there used to be stops like at every other block, now they're every 3rd block. This is Wilson Avenue Station on the North Shore's bypass track. This is a southbound train. This trackage was put in after they had a rear end collision with an L train up there. And they put in this bypass. This also, if you were where the photographer's standing, is where the merchandise dispatch cars would come off the ground level at Uena Yard. This is all gone today. In fact, this viaduct is at the IRM Museum now. But here's on the street running at Greenleaf. This is just north of the L trackage in Wilmette. And this is a train heading westbound. At this point, just about out of the picture, he'll turn to the north. There used to be an IHOP there, and the rails were still in the pavement to the IHOP, which made no sense because there was no railroad there. But this was the hampering of the shoreline. There was all sorts of street running like this. And this is the modernized shoreline, which was put in through Winnetka and Wilmette. And these were done, it was part of the Depression era as a works progress project. This right-of-way is totally intact today. It's a footpath and bike path through here. In the foreground is the Northwestern, now UP, still being run by Metra. But the North Shore, it's a wooded glen. You'll see a picture a little later. But this is your typical shoreline. Most of the shoreline service in the later years just ran to Waukegan. They were mainly for commuters. And of course, here's the Electroliner on the Oakland Street curve heading north. This is just after they've gone up on the wire. And which Electroliner is from this distance, I don't know. The George Cramble's Memorial is right about here to this day. This doesn't look much different right now, except the wire's gone. They left all the catenary towers in, but the wire's gone. There's third rail here now. This is taking a Dempster, which is the first stop the North Shore used to make on the ground on their own right-of-way. It's a northbound train taken on the last day of service. Trains were actually longer that day because fans came in from all over the world. And this tower is here, but this used to guard this. The Rapid Transit had their little yard here just south of the station for their service, which was gone by this time. And of course, it returned in 1964 as the Skokie Swift. This station is still in existence, but it's 100 feet east of this location, and it's a Starbucks. It's all restored. And inside of it, there's all kinds of North Shore and Rapid Transit memorabilia. And right here is a single track coming out of the Swift now. So, but anyways, this is This is right up here in, this is on the Mundelein branch. And here's another train this is at Dempster Street again. He's another northbound. And you can see you're loading baggage on it. They handle a lot of newspaper trade, tons of newspaper trade. And this is after you cross Dempster. There's been talk for years of extending the Skokie Swift up further up to the county line. But the studies have been, you can see the traffic here in Dempster, there wasn't any. Nowadays, this is heavy suburban. This is US 14 at this point. And there's a stoplight here and a stoplight, you know, they never have a grade crossing there. And the citizens of Skokie don't want to buy it. So, but this was typical of the later years of the service. By the way, this is John Nicholson right here. But this is quite typical at the end. It was more fans out than anything else. But they ran just as if there's nothing going to happen. Nothing's going to change. They had a lot of little culverts and stuff like this along the line. Where this is at, I do not know offhand. This building is still here to this day. It wasn't North Shore property, but this is as you turn, this is Highway 22. And you're coming up here. This is the southbound liner. Here. The Electroliners always threw up more snow than the standard cars, but to me, they were never as interesting. They really. What's funny now as an adult, as I go through them, they seem big as a kid. They don't seem big anymore. And it had to be just pure hell crewing them because there was doorways all through the thing. But this is once again an open curve. This is a spot too that had the unique catenary towers. You had the 3-post ones, and then you had the center ones that were like a big Y, and that's the only places they were at on the railroad. This is a Bill Schomburg photo down in, this is the cut where the Shoreline branch, which is beyond the trees back here, joined the Mundelein branch prior to the Skokie Valley route. This is a Mundelein local train. They ran back and forth every hour between, this is Lake Bluff, lower Lake Bluff, and over to Mundelein. And they'd pick up passengers that got off the Northwestern or got off the main line of the North Shore and ride it over to Mundelein and Libertyville. And you had a lot of freight transfer, but no freight by this time because there was no industry down the shoreline anymore. And this is upper Lake Bluff. This is the cameras just turned to your to the left. The right of way is barely visible today. The highway has been all widened through here. This is the same spot, just facing the other way. But this is, you know, one thing, global warming has definitely happened. We don't get winters that go on forever anymore and leave the snow for weeks sitting on the ground. But this was quite typical. The other thing that I always get a kick out of when I see the North Shore now, you know, and if you go out to the museum, is the step heights. And people didn't, you know, ADA what, you know, and, you know, the gaps and everything between the cars, but you still, as a young kid, Dad would drag me, we're going to the diner. You know, okay, just step over that foot of bouncing anticlimber, you know. These were my favorite cars of the railroad, actually. The converted parlors, they made them into full coaches during the war. And I always thought they were pretty sharp. To me, those should have been Silverline with the picture windows. But they never did. Here's your typical sailor special. When you see a train this long, they tack 4 cars onto a regular train for the sailors. Because Great Lakes was a big generator business for the railroad for years. Here's another one. 6 cars maximum when they got to the L. So that's what the sailor specials were loaded out for. It was really an experience to be standing on Wells Street when they came across the Wells Lake Diamond. Paint chips, dust, everything falling, and the noise level of the North Shore train was unbelievable. But nowadays people be really complaining about this. But this is a more typical train of the average day up on the North Shore. This is right around in Glencoe area. But in this area, now this is all built up. All this, what we would call prairie, is all built car dealers and you name it along here. This area, this is by Beckwith Road in Glenview. And there was a stop here, conditional stop, but very rarely made. There's a limited train here, and you're not going to stop. Now, here we are at Libertyville. This is Milwaukee Avenue, Illinois 20. And this train is heading westbound toward Mundelein. This building sat here until the mid-70s. Mitch Markovitz and I looked into buying it, but it was in such bad shape. We thought it'd make a neat house and restaurant or something. And this became a VW dealer later on. And this is the Mundelein station. There's 3 stations that had this general architecture. They were all Gerber buildings, Dempster, Mundelein, and Kenosha. They all look sort of the same, but their length and everything was different. They're available in models for HO gaugers and for O-scalers. It's kits. And they're really a beautiful kit. These low 100 series cars, that's going to be the coal heat. If you notice, they had the globe lighting in them and walkover seats. Very basic cars. They were the state of the art when the Skokie Valley line was being built, but they were strictly here. It's in extra service here. But at Mundelein at night, especially on the weekends, you'd see headlights laying around and marker lights and all that. Nobody ever, seemed to bother with them. And it would be just dead as a doornail when a train would pull in, half a dozen people get off, and that was the end of the line. This is a grocery store sitting here now. 251, the only Silver Line combine. And this car is at Illinois Railway Museum, totally restored. It's beautiful. It looks way better than it does in this picture here in active service. They did a wonderful job. Took a lot of years, but they did it. Here we are at North Chicago Junction again. You got an extra train coming up out of the tunnel, as they always called it. This was a manual interlocked junction, even in its heaviest use days. They had a little guy sitting in a switch booth to jump out and open it up for it. And of course, this is the main line heading south. This was a kind of interesting too, that it was under single wire here, although on the rest of the main line, both north and south of it was catenary. And they come off of the catenary because the main line was on the upper level where it went to freight. This is a straight main line, but this through the junction went down to this. And it was like that till the day they closed. This is here coming up north out of the junction again, or going south out of the junction. Like I say, this is an expressway now, and this building is gone and just kind of turns through there. But North Chicago Junction was by Camp Barry of Great Lakes, and so it drew this is where you go for your fleet schools, boiler, tender, gunnery, and whatnot. And a lot of Navy would board here. So the next stop south was Downey's West, which was your main Navy gate. And this is where the shoreline looked at the end. They'd taken up the one track and they just left the westernmost track. There's Lake Forest Station. And they're just shuttling cars to Highwood shops. And, you never knew when one was coming, and then they'd show up. But like I say, here in North Chicago again, you got the sailors loading up. In fact, I had this picture framed in my office at work. And one of my superiors came in one time, little guy, he said, "Oh my God, I'm in the Navy." So that was kind of fun for him. This is Waukegan on the main line, also known as Edison Court, because of the street that would dead end into it. And they would do their drops and picks here. And they had a few storage tracks. And this is still an open, there's a bike path in here and everything. There's a little plaque that tells you what used to be there. You see how they add the cars. They had this area they called the pit that was to the west of the main line. And they'd actually preload the ad car down there. And the train would come down from Milwaukee and they put it on the front end or the back end, away they go. These buildings were still here as of 5 years ago, but they're gone now. This was the last series of double sash cars, the 700, low 700s. These were built by Cincinnati about the same time as the CTA 4200s. But they have, for North Shore connoisseurs, it's always about the roof. And these have the Skokie style abrupt bulging roof as opposed to the shoreline ones, which are more gradual. But the rest of the car looked like a shoreline car. And these were actually the first cars for the Skokie Valley route in 1926. But they were soon eclipsed by these single sash windows cars. There's quite a few of these left in preservations here and there. here's what I was saying about the pit. Of course, they're not going to add to an electroliner, but it was high level to the one side and it was steps on the main line, you know. Which, of course, that made it easier for handling freight, and they did handle a fair amount of freight. Nowhere near what the South Shore did, but you know. And this is so typical North Shore weather, just unbelievable. You see all the ice hanging on the car, and that car will go right into service shortly. But this was always an active little yard because you were switching stuff in and out, and commuter trains plus the ones going up to Milwaukee, the limiteds. Here's a train in the pit all set to go out. And these are the ones that are Chicago locals. They'll hit every stop along the line. And then another one of those low say hunters. Here he is coming up out of the North Chicago area. Another one in the pit. There's a bunch of HO guys that are supposedly modeling this in a modular format. The guys from up in Milwaukee. That would be interesting. This is Racine. And this is more typical of average service in the later years, one car. Because by this time they connected the expressway, what's now I-94, between Chicago and Milwaukee. And that really kind of put the nail on things. And of course, Susquehanna was using it, you know, as Carl Icahn did, leading the company. There's a color version of the same area. And another color. This was the fan trip, one of the last fan trips they ran. In fact, it's the one that Arthur and I were taking pictures of in front of. And it had every type of the Silverliners in it. So here's Racine. This one, Racine always was like the original station as built. They didn't modernize it with the Gerber type ones. Except for these windows, which are real typical in the North Shore buildings. Fans hiding behind a pole for protection. But this is so typical, you know. On the Milwaukee division, of course, this is just south of Milwaukee a little bit. You were on single span wire, running with trolley poles, and everybody said you couldn't run under trolley poles, but every hour they did it. So this was on the last weekend of service. I actually shot this picture. The other train was a special run by NRHS, and I'm on the CRA special. So it was on the, what is it, about the 15th of January, something like that. The last Sunday of service. So this is Highway W up in Kenosha area. This is all one subdivision all around here. You'd never, but the right of way is still intact as a bike path. This is just south of downtown Kenosha. Occasionally you'd see these Bates poles along the line, but not too. This is as you enter in Milwaukee. This cut has been all filled in. Very little, you can very rarely see anything of the North Shore. Plus, as it further got south, north into Milwaukee, it was up on a fill. And that fill was built the old way, you know, with a trestle, and then they dumped it. And I worked in the engineering department of the Postal Service with a guy whose brother was in the company that bid to destroy the fill. And they didn't realize there was creosoted vents within it. They lost their shirt doing it. This is a Harrison Street. Actually, it was Harrison Avenue, but everybody called it Harrison Street. The start or end of street running in Milwaukee. The expressway is just off to your right here now, going up in this area here. And for years, the shop, the North Shore running shop, was sitting there along the expressway. It's all torn down now. And these are some cars at Harrison. They used to store cars there because there really wasn't much room downtown. And they could do light service on them. Here's the liner coming off of that stretch of the road. And of course, at night. This is a CRA fan trip with that drum head. And that thing was gone for years. And finally, somebody passed away and they found it. But most people didn't want it in their pictures. Typical with the snow plastered against the windows. I can honestly, my dad had a friend that the two of them would want to go on North Shore rides when the weather was cruddy. And on a Sunday, and they'd call, you want to go? And it would always be weather like this. And many a times, if you were on that earlier train up in Milwaukee, you see the automobile parked there. They'd come up and they'd lay on the air horn right in here, and somebody would stagger out of one of the neighborhood taverns and move his car. And Milwaukee, like Chicago, had a tavern on every corner in those days. The street running in Milwaukee always kind of hamstrung the railroad. Speaking about street running, the South Shore street running is all but gone. But this is so typical, but if you notice, there's very few vehicles. Nowadays, it'd be a load of parked cars. So it makes the street seem much narrower. This is where you went, they had a little cutover from one block to the next. A spot for pictures. You can see how the insulation in the roof and everything. Behind this 51 Ford is the North Shore train coming into Milwaukee. This bridge was torn up for years. They were constantly rebuilding it. And they finally finished rebuilding it in the fall of '61. And they had maybe one season of full North Shore use, and then it was gone. It's a drawbridge in the middle span. And they just tore it down a couple of years ago and built a new one finally. But there was highway cones and traffic and all that stuff for years there. Here you are turning into Milwaukee. This is one of the storage tracks down at the bottom. I was always fascinated as a kid standing on the platform watching you. At some points, you'd have the car ahead of you kind of more next to you than in front of you. It was really something. This car is out at IRM today. But all this is gone now, and the expressway cuts right through here. But you got a new streetcar line on the other side of it right now. So here's what I was saying about the way the combine loading. They had this little platform in Milwaukee, and in Chicago they had what was the remnant of the old South Side L at Congress Street as a little single track stub. And it was the same sort of arrangement for loading newspapers and whatnot. Headlights laying around. They had inspection pits though under two of the tracks all the way to the end. So here's some special moves even in the winter. This picture's taken over on the Aurora and Elgin, well, rapid transit at the Wells Street Depot. This was the terminal of the Aurora and Elgin right here. There's a CA&E Pullman sitting here in this little jammed in terminal. North Shore equipment could run anywhere on the L. CA&E cars could run basically on the line they used, the Garfield Park, and that's about it, except for the later Cincinnati cars and the WB&A rebuilds. They could run up on the north side L and were used during the war. This is on the last day. There's a couple of pictures from the last day. This is the Carl Lance photo. And this is at Glen Air. Once again, there's Art Peterson and his dad, but this is a Dempster southbound train. It was funny. Art and I got pulled out of school, and we went to a parochial school, and they were all kind of in our parents' face, but since our parents were going, they couldn't say anything. There's, once again, that's John Nicholson there that day. We've all known each other for that long. This little running light was always in the liners for, mainly from the L, for the Towerman. But anyways, that's the end of it, and the end of service. It ended it. This was taken on the last day. They were done, the last trains out at midnight. And people had to spend the night and come back on the Milwaukee Road or something. But freight ran too, right up until the end, all through the winter. In fact, a couple of runs after to get cars out of the line. These were the last locomotives actually been used with the batteries because you didn't need wire in certain areas. You had the trolley batteries here. They shifted quite a bit in the Skokie area. There was a whole area called Weber that had no wires over it. Still being shifted by the Northwestern up until a couple of years ago, until UP bought them. And these are your GE pups. This is the one that came from non-North Shore area. It doesn't have a pilot. It came from Arkansas. North Shore ones have the iron pilots underneath. This is, you can see down here, these poles. That's the single level trolley wire going into North Chicago. This is what's called Pettibone Yard up here. And it's where all the freight locos, or they call them motors, were kept and serviced. This is a good view of the batteries. And they would run double pole if they had a load. Now, here, this is, you know, originally the North Shore was owned, of course, by Insull, and he owned Commonwealth Edison at the time, or controlled it. So they would handle all this coal for the power plants. Of course, this is the Commonwealth Edison right-of-way, which is what the Skokie Valley route ran over. Here's the Oakton curve here. The passengers would be going this way. This is the freight interchange to the Chicago Northwestern. It went down south of Howard Street, where the passengers were all on the CTA by that time. These are one of the two big units they got from Oregon Electric. The crews didn't really like this one because, as you can see, they have to get outside the switch and everything. I always thought they were very photogenic and they used, for a big rolling billboard, but the crews didn't like them. This is on the Mundelein branch. This is the Des Plaines River trestle. That picture I took when I was 6 was taken from the other side of this trestle. And they would ship, the Mundelein branch connected with the Sioux Line, the EJ&E, and the Milwaukee Road. So that a lot of interchange freight and bridge traffic. That was basically what it was. This bridge now is a modern footbridge here, single arc footbridge. This is a bike path also, the North Shore, right away here. And here's your Mundelein shuttle with that motor again. This is Highway 176 here. This all looks very similar to this day. And you have all these poles along here. And there's a stretch with the Skokie Valley style catenary towers. And they're still there. They cut one side of them off, but they're all still there and they're being used by ComEd. This is your other Oregon Electric locomotive that the crews did like because they could sit in the cab the whole way. And of course, Fort Dodge had the other ones like this. And this is up at Pettibone Yard here. The original site of Illinois Railway Museum was right here in North Chicago. And this was your original freight stuff. During the war, they used these as motors. They would tie 3 of them together and run them as motors. That's why they had to add all this strengthening to the floor to these MD cars. And then they turned a bunch of them into trailers, and they used all sorts of things with them. I always thought they're pretty sharp looking. There are a bunch of them restored too. Oops. So this is structures. I went to the first was Milwaukee Terminal. We'll get that again. Here's your typical install Spanish. This is at Glen Air. And there's still one of these left along the North Shore, but it's a builder, and he's built another building like attached to it that kind of dwarfs it. The South Shore had 2 of them, one of them still left, and it's been restored and everything. And of course, here we start in Milwaukee, in the station, and coming south, Racine, Zion, all the facilities. If you notice, they took the time to shovel, and people didn't have snow blowers yet at this time, but somebody got out and shoveled. Libertyville was really an extensive station. And their snow fighting equipment was pretty varied. They had this Russell plow. I have never seen a picture or it being used in Illinois. They ran it up but this is in Illinois, but they ran it up in the Wisconsin division. But this was the most typical thing. They had plows rigged up under these MD cars, and they would use that with a motor and plow the railroad out. Never stopped running. And line car 606 was out daily. They were lubing the wire. These are the motorized switch frogs they had as you went. This is where the Mundelein branch cut off. And of course, this motor lasted the CTA days. They kept the 606 number, put an S in front of it, and then burned it down to the floor. But it lasted for another 10 years beyond the North Shore. Their other line car, 604, is still preserved out at the Illinois Railway Museum. Accidents do happen. If you notice the bend in this car here, it's really some wreckers here on the Northwestern freight line. That freight line, when the North Shore abandoned, the Northwestern bought the North Shore tracks and moved. They just put a switch in like across just north of Dempster Street and ran on the North Shore. They took up the one track and they ran on the North Shore track to just south of North Chicago. And it was like that till about 10 years ago. And then they pulled the plug on that line. But it was a pretty severe wreck. So these black and whites is an image here. The late Pete Busak did a trip, the entire railroad, basically from north to south with a few in the midsection. So we'll take a quick ride down from Milwaukee. Here's the Milwaukee terminal out on the platform. Notice the snow. This had to be a miserable job being under these cars when they're dripping with snow. They changed the trolley shoe insert every second trip, so it was really quite a job. But the extended Roman lettering in its class. they had this electroliner. In one of the books, they said it was a ghost of the liner. It was like an etching in this mirror on the lunch counter. I've often wondered if that got saved. But here you go, 38 daily trains, you know. You think about the electroliners, how much mileage they put on them, even before they went to Philadelphia. It's amazing. Because you're figuring 88 miles each way. Each of them made 5 round trips. But your standard cars and the buckets, as they say, and the combines made right up to the end, the full run all the time. They had one double sash, I don't know if I got a picture here, a double sashed car that was Silverline. Besides, there was the 251 combine, the 415 diner, which they ran in the substitute electroliner trains every Sunday. And there was one coach that had been a diner. It was done over like that and then into the war. And it was a dog, supposedly, by the crews. And it was a real oddball car. That's 409. Here's Racine Station. And here's the Mundelein transfer point. This is transferring before ADA. Here's your stairs, go down. And here, this is on that Mundelein, not Mundelein, the Shoreline connection over to the Mundelein. Here's a freight going into Great Lakes. This was very typical to take the coal in. Great Lakes was all coal-fired at that point in time. There's your power plant. This trackage was still in here. I was up here doing work for the PO, and that was all still being used as late as year 2000. But it was switched off to Northwestern by then. Very typical of a Mundelein train in that period. And always fascinating, you know, they had rear MCB couplers and everything, not the tight locks, and always this blow of snow. And of course, the Silverliners, they had put this diaphragm system on them, but they couldn't use it in Milwaukee. They couldn't use it on the L in Chicago because it was too tight. And it also didn't have a top on the diaphragm, so they could get to the trolley poles. Figured they put these poles up at 45 miles an hour too. And the guy would be standing out there in a snow-covered thing with a chain behind him. OSHA didn't exist, you know, yet. But here's your inside of a combine, pretty typical. I don't know which one it is. I have on my railroad 253 because I had a memorable ride in that as a kid, and so I had to do it. There's that Russell plow again. There's a car sitting down in the pit at Waukegan. You see Chicago Local. That's what they're carded for. And that was your commuter service. And at North Chicago Junction, here's the 606 coming in again. The liners, though, you know, fans, we always think of it as all peaches and cream. But by the time the railroad ended, they were getting in pretty bad shape. Red Arrow did quite a restoration on them. They really did. This bridge is still in existence. This is where Highway 41 cuts under. There's a bike path here now. Yeah, this is in North Chicago. This is right as they come off the catenary to go down into the junction, southbound. There was a group run by a fellow named Roy Roadcap, and they tried to buy it at scrap value, raise the money, and they never did raise enough money to stop the North Shore was kept running by the ICC because it was interstate, as opposed to Warren Elgin that went out like overday in the middle of the day. And so they didn't save it. Here's on the final day. This picture was taken by Pete. And they ran specials even right up until the end. It was pretty amazing. So now that your journey's completed, it's time for an Electroburger and a beer by True Milwaukee brand Blatz or True Chicago brand Meisterbrow. Anybody know what happened to Meisterbrow? That's Miller Lite, by the way, now. And Pete did this right before he passed away. So here we are in the Tavern Lounge. This is 415, the diner on the inside. And this was the only car that had a sealed vestibule door. It was moved to the side to handle. There was a U-shaped couch here. And here's inside the Electroliner, Liberty Liner, diner. And some of their dishware and placemats. These have been reprinted. You can get these new. But in the post-North Shore days, even in the winter, this is up at East Troy. This is 757 is the only car that didn't have the trolley mats on it. It had a series of metal stirrup steps. Always look kind of weird. And here's the liner running its first weekend back in operation at IRM. They by then sealed that extra door that had been added in. And it's really just about ready to come back out fully restored now. It's in really beautiful shape. And of course, it's Shade Gap. You can ride the other one. And it lives on in models. This is Ed Hertz's layout. This is Ed Halstead's layout. This was at my house at a trolley night. So we do tend to, we're an Elgin one sneaking in there. We do tend to follow the North Shore quite a bit, all of us out here. And then we have these little events called Remembering Day, where we take a, that's the thing up in Racine. And we have trolley nights at one of our houses, but COVID put a lid on that for a while. And we do these North Shore memorial rides. The date this guy is 16 and driving now. But anyways, we take a ride on the South Shore because it's the only electric railroad we've got running around here other than the IC commuters. And we do it on wearing North Shore stuff, and the South Shore crews get a big kick out of that. So here's what's left today. If you were to come out here and do an archaeological trip, this is the line. This is right near Great Lakes, coming up out of Lake Bluff. And this is the Lake County path on the main line. And then there's another pike path on the other side of the UP on the shoreline. Here's Edison Court, where they said it's all wide now, and then this bike path cuts through it. And there's, signage saying this was what it was. And the Green Bay Trail is over on, this is the former Shoreline branch in the UP Northwestern here. There's Dan Joseph here. And this is that high speed that was built during the Depression. This is what it looks like in winter and today. This was Indian Boundary Station in Winnetka. All these platforms still remain and stairways and everything. It's kind of like a time warp. It's really strange over there. And Ravinia Festival, Ravinia Park was built by the North Shore to get people to come up and ride the railroad. It originally had like a amusement park thing, but to this day, it is like the summer concert venue in Chicago. For classical music or rock and roll, you name it. And Ravinia is a wonderful place to see a concert. And people cross across here and wonder what that long area is. And that was the old North Shore right away right there. And in Skokie, here's the Starbucks. It's all restored. And this is the L. There's a bus terminal here, and the L is right about here now. And this is in Kenosha. It's a daycare center. So the Mundelein one is gone. So we couldn't find the North Shore with somebody to wave at it, but we waved at a Milwaukee Road train. And this was a fan trip a couple of years ago. So I could take a run over, but that's about it. There's the end. That's all, folks. And, at my age, I forgot what I was doing. I retraced my steps, got distracted on the way back, and now I got to go take a pee. So those are important things to know. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks a lot, Terrell.
No problem.
We'll do one of your other shows sometime.
If I'm asked, I'll do. Got another North Shore. The funny thing about the North Shore, most of those pictures are taken, out on the right of way. And you figure 20% of the railroad was spent on the L. So it's basically all on the L. And of course, the L liners are all still running, although there's been a lot of changes out here in this last year. Come to Chicago now, I can still see a little vestige of the old. It's amazing. The L right away from Wilson Avenue North is being totally rebuilt. And the Belmont Junction doesn't look anything like it did 5 years ago. And the elevate is really changing. And of course, the South Shore, when you go through Hammond now, it looks like Dresden after the war. There's not a building standing around the South Shore because that's where they're going to build this big bus terminal and everything, and the new line heading down to Sherville, Indiana. And Michigan City, the only pavement around the rails in Michigan City is that pavement that has the rails in it. There's no street on either side of the track anymore. And passengers are not allowed to ride on it. They drag the passenger cars through with diesels every day. And they run a shuttle from Michigan City to South Bend. And then from Dune Park Station, they run, that's the east end of the line currently. But the other is being rebuilt. They're working on, it's going to be double track railroad now all the way through to the shops. So a lot of the trolleyness is going away from it. It's going to look like the Pennsy to me. Well, the street track was that was the unique part. But we go over there pretty often, a lot of us, not that far.
Do you have any more pictures of your layout? That you
Of my layout?
Yeah.
Currently? I don't know. I don't know if I could do those. Let me see. I don't know. I got more pictures probably of Rich Ullman stuff right now. No, it's just the way it goes. I do a yearly model DVD, just like a model slideshow, and so let's see here.
Steve, I have a question for that. Those cars that look like they were stainless steel in the lower half now, they were painted?
Yeah. Painted. It was a shadowing system. They had they actually hung like a stencil thing from the windowsills, and they, it's like an airbrushing technique. Very simple, really. And it held up well. That's what's pretty remarkable about it.
The shop and them actually painting those cars?
Beg your pardon?
Are there any pictures of the paint shop with them actually painting that on the side?
Tom Gervan has a bunch. I don't have any. He did a presentation at CRA where, he showed them being done. But I don't have any of those. Their shops, the North Shore shops was, at best, you would say it was primitive. They never had an overhead crane. They never had, it was dirt floored for much of it. And compared to even the Warren Elgin shops, it was primitive. It really was. But they did some remarkable work. They would jack every car up when they wanted to work underneath them. Let's see if I can share this screen. I don't know if I can.
Did they have a pit that they worked on?
What's that?
They did not have a pit that they worked in?
Not in the shop. No, it was a dirt floor. It was the darnest thing you ever saw. Let's see here. Let me hit the share screen again, see if I can do that.
If you wanted a pit, you went to the Milwaukee passenger station.
Yes, they did there.
Terrell, were any of the freight motors saved?
Yes. They're at IRM, they've got one, more than one. And Iowa Terminal has one in beautiful shape, painted in Iowa Terminal. Those two I'm sure about. There might be one up in East Troy too. This is on my layout here. A couple of Elgin cars. There was a fellow that was at the East Penn meet selling these sides a number of years ago. So that's, and Kurt Seeliger was marketing them for him. But that's on my road there. My layout's really simple. I mean, it's a train layout in a den. You can see the den here at the store. And I just happen to have a train layout burst out in the den. So, but we have these trolley nights, and I use everybody else brings I can see my own stuff run anytime. So everybody else brings stuff. And here's a 604, the North Shore 604 right here. But these are real popular. These are the ones that Lovich imported. There's me driving my bus. Anyway.
So we're not seeing the pictures. We're just seeing that.
Oh, I thought I did that. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can do that again. Hang on. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Share screen. Now we'll do it. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe I can get it wrong. Let's see. Are you seeing that?
Just click the individual picture.
What's that?
Click the individual picture you want to show. Double click.
I did. There you go. Can you see that?
Now we
No.
just see the composite.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do it because it's, you know, I can enlarge them, but it's not going through apparently. I don't know. But
Okay, good try.
That's all right. Thanks.
yeah, oh, wait a minute. Here's one. Here's full screen.
Right.
You see that one?
Sure, and then that'll bring up more choices.
Yeah, it says I'm sharing, but I don't know.
No, you're sharing it, but we're not seeing the individual picture. We're just seeing the thumbnails of all your different files.
Oh, see, then if I click on it, it goes full screen. Let's see. Try it the other way. See, we didn't practice this like we did the other night. Let's see. Let's find a picture.
We'll do it next time.
Yeah. Look at this.
It,
Trying
you
to
know,
bring
it's-
one of them up and they can't.
yeah. This is,
Yeah.
can you see the thumbnails right now?
Yeah, we see all the thumbnails.
All right. Let's
It
see
makes
if
a difference.
if it comes up. Does that come up full screen?
No,
Does it now?
no.
Well, then I don't know what to do. You know, from this end.
What about your share settings?
Yeah, it's on.
We'll get a magnifying glass. And
Yeah, you may be
Yeah.
sharing.
Usually, you know, prior to COVID, I would twice a year have everybody over. But I don't know, like everybody pretty
just a wee
reticent,
little bit, okay?
you know, cramming everybody into a basement. It's like, you know, everybody's a little afraid of it yet. Now it's spiking up again. Around here, they're talking about masks again for everything.
Anybody have any questions for Terrell? Steve,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terrell.
Okey doke.
Nice.
Concludes our program for today. So our next meet will be at West
Penn.
out in Washington, PA. June 2nd, 3rd.
First weekend.
Yeah.
And third or fourth, third or fourth, whatever.
Third is Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. Fourth is Saturday.
Right.
I like the IT Class C. Whose is this? That's a nice model.
That's St. Louis Museum.
Yeah, I know what it is. That's beautiful. That's some great model building.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank Terrell. Thank the Village Spot.
Yes.
Thank Ken.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Right. All right, time to go home.
In case anybody wondering, the Sixers are winning.
Oh, okay.
It won't last. The Phillies were winning until the ninth inning.